Our story starts with French astronomer Camille Flammarion, who tried to answer a question posed by the Sunday Herald. On January 23, 1910, the newspaper wrote an article regarding the expected return of the comet titled, "What Will Happen if Halley's Comet Strikes the Earth on its Trip Around the Sun?" In order to answer the question and attempt to quell any fears that may have already been brewing, Flammarion responded. However, he made a classic blunder that many scientists made and continue to make to this modern day, over-explaining and overestimating what is considered common knowledge. The poisoning of the human race by deleterious gases is not probable. Yet, if the oxygen of our atmosphere were to combine with the hydrogen of the comet's tail, the Earth's population would be suffocated in short order. If, on the other hand, the encounter were to result in a diminution of our supply of nitrogen, every human being on the Earth would have his physical activity stimulated, and the race would perish in a paroxysm of mad and joyful delirium, and would even welcome so enchanting an end. Were the product of collision, on the other hand, oxide of carbon, everybody's lungs would be poisoned. Spectrum analysis does not yet show us what elements prevail in the tail of the comet, though the more frequent in such bodies are hydrocarburetes of nitrogen. To someone like Flammarion, it might have been obvious that the comet would have given off gases as it was heated up by the sun, but the public probably would not have known this, and so would not have even thought to have formed the very fears he inadvertently inspired. While Flammarion might have been secure in the knowledge that the comet posed no real threat, and so felt safe to muse on highly improbable end-of-the-world scenarios, the public did not have the same knowledge he did. So when Flammarion mused about the hydrogen mixing with the oxygen in the atmosphere and suffocating the entire world, or the myriad of other end-of-the-world scenarios he could dream up with, the public became anxious. To him, these were just playful daydreams, but to the people, these were real predictions being made by a scientist. Quickly realizing his mistake, he spoke again to the newspaper. For several hours, we will be immersed in the gaseous caudal appendage whose chemical constitution is still little known. The comet will pass directly between the sun and the world at 2 o'clock the morning of May 19th. At our hour, the Pacific Ocean will be in full daylight, while France will be in night. Little danger may be expected, however, for the tail will probably be so rarefied as to be inoffensive. However, this little reassurance was short-lived once it was discovered that the gases the comet would give off were in fact cyanide. Now Flammarion was panicking. Of course, now we need to bring up yet another classic human folly, listening to the craziest voice in the crowd simply because they have a couple credentials to their name. This is the arguments from authority fallacy. Think nurses who are anti-vax, dietitians who think that your caloric intake doesn't affect your weight, or the few but very loud scientists who don't believe in man-made climate change. It is not a person's credentials that make them right about something, because people can and do lie when it benefits them. You should only listen to evidence and evidence alone. This is a lesson that would have prevented the panic that the 1910 return of the comet brought about, as the vast majority of Flammarion's peers were trying to undo the damage he had already done and was about to drastically worsen. So what did Flammarion say about the comet that brought so much anxiety and dread to the people? It has been established that the cyanogenic bands show plainly that the comet spectra as studied at the Yerkes Observatory. The fact was made known to Camille Flammarion, the French scientist, who ventured the opinion that the gas is colorless, poisonous, and have an almond-like odor, and that it may possibly destroy all life on Earth. But wait, there's more. When directly faced with criticism from his peers, he did not try to accept the correction or even view the arguments or research with an unbiased perspective like any scientist worth his salt should. Instead, he doubled down. The tail of Halley's Comet, so the spectroscope shows us, contains cyanogen gases in immense quantities. Cyanogen is a very deadly poison. A grain of its potassium salt touched to the tongue is enough to cause instant death. The orbit of Halley's Comet and our Earth, as is well known, cross each other. Should our Earth have to pass through the comet's tail, the cyanogen gas in it will impregnate our atmosphere. All human life on our planet will be snuffed out. Try as the scientific community might, boring reality will always play second fiddle to sensationalist speculation, especially the apocalyptic kind. By May, the entire world was talking about the comet and the world's impending doom. A strange sect, numbering 300, who live in the hills outside Atlanta today, barricaded themselves in a cave there. They declared that the end of the world will come tonight, and they will spend the intervening time in prayer. The panic over the approach of the comet has spread to the convicts in the federal prison here. For the first time in the history of the prison, a class of convicts was confirmed today by the Catholic bishop in the diocese, assisted by a number of priests. Possibly, we have been tearing along a great volume of cyanogen gases several hours already. If your neighbor is unusually boisterous this evening and disturbs you with noisy guffaws, don't make a sarcastic allusions to Goldsmith's line about the loud laugh that makes the vacant mind. It may be that it is merely the comet's tail that is responsible for his good nature. The tail is composed of cyanogen gas, and the cyanogen gas is laughing gas. People stuffed any nook, cranny, or crack they could to keep out the harmful vapors. Churches were bursting at the seams. People didn't go to work. Small businesses and schoolhouses shut down, all in preparation for the end of the world. And of course, where there's panic and uncertainty, there's money to be made. Conmen all over began selling in tinctures, tonics, pills, and other products that miracle cures that were guaranteed to cure or prevent any and all negative effects from the comet, and probably a handful of other things just to hedge their bets. Of course, these were at best sugar pills or harmless placebos, and at worst were dangerous, even deadly mixtures of God knows what. The predictions for what the end of the world quickly spiraled beyond Flammarion's predictions. Catastrophic storms, the death of King Edward VII, God save the king. It was even considered to be an omen of the coming German invasion. Well, at this point of European history, that's just easy money. Of course, the people who were collectively losing their shit were a small portion of the population, as most people just continued business as usual and even looked forward to the rare sighting. And once again, those who succumbed to rampant speculation and fears of doomsday would be proven wrong when the comet made its journey across the sky with absolutely no negative effect, just like it had countless times before. With a few bruised egos here and there and a handful recovering from the laxatives they bought as a comet cure-all, the world quickly recovered from this historic hysteria of Halley's Comet.